It's that time again to put up your Christmas decorations. So this week I'm going to show you how to make these really tasteful, affordable oak decorations that will last you and your family for many years to come. And if you don't think you've got time to make these before this Christmas, then don't fret. All of these are going to be raffled off and be with a few lucky owners this side of Christmas, together with one of my favourite tools, which is the cordless trend router that I made them with. Well, not this one, this is a new one. This is in a box. You're not having my one. I'm using 120mm wide by 40mm thick, that's just under 5x2-ish, planed oak for this project. I really like oak and I think it has a certain natural charm that seems to go well in any home, whether it be traditional or modern. I bought this from the Hardwoods offcut shop near where I'm based in Essex, but there are plenty of online sellers of oak where you can get similar material. I like the chunky thickness of it and the fact that it's already machined, as I don't own planers and thicknessers, and I'd rather start this project with a nice planed piece of timber rather than a lump of tree. I found some inspiration on the internet for 3 designs which I've sized correctly for the square blocks I intend to make. And for the first one, which is a Christmas tree, all I need to do is to mark the corners through the paper using a centre punch or a bradawl. Having learnt from experience, I'm trying to speed things up and make things easy here by drilling out the tight corners, which can be fiddly to say the least to get into with a chisel. This cordless trend 18-volt router that I'm using and is included in the Raffle is one of my favourite tools now. It comes with just about all the attachments you're ever going to need, and I'm using the trim base here, but it also comes with a plunge base with a 60mm plunge depth and variable speed motor and micro adjustment, so it works as well as a plunge router as it does a trim router. I don't have one of those fancy workbenches with lots of holes dotted all over it, so I rig up a bit of a Heath Robinson support with 2 sash clamps to grip my workpiece on its sides so the top is clear for routing. One of the best features of this router for me is 2 small LED lights near the cutter, so you can actually see what you're routing. With the router taking away 95% of the material and the drill holes forming the corners, it's quite easy and quick just to clean up using a chisel. In theory, there should obviously be a star at the top of the tree, but I decide it's far too small to attempt, so a round something we'll have to do instead. That's the first one finished, and I think it's come out really well. I must say, using a drill bit to drill out these corners has really speeded up the process because I didn't have to mess about chiseling those out. And in some ways has actually made it quite neat and tidy, so I'm glad I did that. Now I've got another 2 of these to make, so while I'm doing that, go and get a quick word from this week's sponsor, who is IHeat, who's a specialist boiler installation company who will give you an immediate fixed price quote. So while you go and learn all about that, I'll get on with these. Not only an immediate fixed price quote, but IHeat make it incredibly easy to get a new one of these really fast. Everything is on their website, and in many cases they can install the next day. They're nationwide with a huge network of qualified gas-safe installers, and by simply answering a series of questions on their website, they can cut out the on-site survey. Then they find you a range of suitable boilers for your property, and you can decide when it gets installed, which speeds things up and saves you that painful process of waiting in for someone to come round and raise their eyebrows at your old boiler. Not something I enjoy. But instead you can get an immediate fixed price quote and can arrange an installation date to suit you. So if you're one of these has just gone pop, or you think it's time to get something a little bit more efficient, log on to IHeat for an immediate quote and use my code PROPERDIY to get a £50 discount, or even easier, click on the IHeat link in the description below. I move on to making some snowflakes, and this time I've decided to use a V-bit in the router for a change. So I just mark the end of each needle on each dendrite structure, if you know what I mean. So you'll notice that I've changed my approach to this slightly, that I'm now not cutting these into individual sections, which gives the router more bearing surface to work off rather than working on individual blocks. The only thing you have to remember is when you're marking them out, if you want them square, just to add in the thickness of the kerf of the blade in between each one, else you'll gradually get a bit of a creep. The other thing I'm doing is using a straight edge for the longer straight lines, but for the shorter lines I'm just going freehand, and if they're a little bit squiggly it doesn't matter. This is time to be creative. These are only decorations as well, and as a good friend of mine keeps saying, this is not rocket surgery. After working on all the small decorations, I move on to something a little bit bigger, using the same material, but now around 760mm long. That's 2'6" in old money. You can try to glue these types of letters onto the wood and then route through them, but I found that the paper tends to rip, and before long you can't see what you're supposed to be following. So I just transfer the lettering onto the oak by hand. On purpose, I've picked a chunky, rounded font for this, with internal radii larger than the cutter that I'm using, so I don't need to do any chiseling in any corners, speeding things up. And this time I'm going to be cutting right up to the line, and maybe sometimes even over, but with this type of font no one's going to notice as long as the curves are smooth. With all the letters and symbols routed, I put a bevel on the front face of each piece using my benchtop router, but this could easily be done with the cordless router instead. With all the woodwork complete, it's time to add a bit of decoration. So I'm using acrylic paint here, which is just like a grown-up version of poster paint. And I'm going to be putting on at least 2 coats. This is the first one, just to lose some of that texture at the bottom and do a proper coverage really. And conversely, you can actually get some of the sawdust from your oak cut-ins and sprinkle it in to create texture. I've already done that with one of the Christmas trees. It actually creates quite a nice texture as well. And it's at this point that you can invite in your children or your grandchildren to help you. It's a great thing to get them involved. And even if they go outside the line, this is all going to be sanded anyway. So there's nothing they can do to really mess this up. And it also means that they can be a part of something that they may well be keeping and using for an awful long time. With the sanding out the way and any overspill of paint removed, I give each piece a couple of coats of boiled linseed oil, putting it on and then rubbing off the excess after a few minutes, carefully avoiding getting too much in the area of the acrylic paint. So there you go, all of them are oiled up and finished, and I think they really complement the traditional cheap plastic type decorations we all use, but will last you an awful lot longer and no doubt come out the loft year after year and maybe even get passed down to younger members of the family. It'd be great for them to get something that you've actually made. As I said at the beginning, all of this is now being raffled off. The first prize is the big Merry Christmas sign together with the Trend cordless router, and then 3 further prizes of these triple decorative blocks, and all the winners get a proper DIY mug as well. Tickets are just £2. The more tickets you buy, obviously the more chance you've got of winning. And the whole thing is being organised by raffle.com. The link is in the description below. They look after everything, including picking the winner, so you know that it doesn't go to my mate round the corner. The end date is Sunday the 18th. That gives you 2 weeks before the raffle closes, which also gives me enough time to get these out before Christmas as well. If you're going to make your own, enjoy making it, enjoy the run up to Christmas, and I will see you next time.